Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, pulling up the screen here. We're going to talk about a couple of different things. The SEC's biggest fan base, we're going to talk about all that. They're going to rank them. Also, the money situation. We're going to take a look at the rankings, the SEC's richest schools and the poorest. So this is going to be kind of an interesting show. I've never really done a deep dive on this, and there's a couple articles and some stats out there that are pretty interesting. We'll see where the Vols stack up against the rest of the SEC. So let's get right on into this. And we talked about the other day where Florida had actually lost a lot of their fan base, and that happens when you don't win. And you'll see in this rankings how much winning affects that. And here it talks about University of Alabama. They'd won a bunch of national titles, so that's really helped them over time. But Georgia's been catching up pretty quickly. And we'll go down through this chart here. Now, this is pretty interesting. It sort of gives you the size of the circles as far as fan base. And you can see Tennessee's right here. It's got 1.5 million. And then, obviously, Alabama, I believe, is the biggest with 3.4. And we'll take a look at the actual chart. But Georgia's been gaining a bunch because they've had so many wins. But let's go down here and kind of see what it says. Georgia's actually added 2 million fans since 2018, and that's what happens when you win 2 national titles. And Georgia's a big state. So some other SEC schools have been big movers, too, in the last year. I know UT added quite a few. And Alabama actually lost 700,000 fans over the last year, so they were the big loser, believe it or not. Auburn University lost 950,000. And, again, that's what happens when you lose. Florida lost 26%, Mississippi State 22%, Missouri 20%. So here's the list of your biggest fan base. Alabama is number 1.
Alabama!
And they've lost 17% of their fan base. Georgia's gained, so they're number 2. LSU is number 3. They've gained 9%. They had a good year last year. Texas is continuing to drop. They're calling them SEC. They're really not there yet until next year. But they're at, 2.4 million. Texas A&M is at 2.2, and, of course, Texas is such a huge state. That makes sense. Oklahoma, they're not in the SEC yet, but 1.6 million. Florida is at 1.5. University of Tennessee, 1.5. Florida's down 26%. We're up 14%. And then Auburn, of course, had the huge drop. They almost dropped in half. And they don't bother showing Vanderbilt, I don't think, or the other Mississippi schools or whatnot in this list. Maybe I can find them here. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, gosh, Vanderbilt's got 172,000.
You serious?
Missouri's 881. Let's see, Arkansas is 946. Let's see, who's this little one here? Mississippi State's 400,000. South Carolina's 855. Auburn down to 1 million. Now, Florida, in their defense, even though it's a huge state, they got to fight it out with Florida State and Miami. So I find that pretty interesting. Really, it boils down to this. You got to win. That's what matters the most, because I'll show you the populations, and that has something to do with it. Like here you can see California's the biggest state. Of course, there's no teams in the SEC, but Texas at 30 million is the second biggest state, so obviously that's going to help them a lot with fan base. Florida's number 3 with 22 million. Then Georgia is number 8 with 11 million, so that helps them. And they don't really have any competition in the state of Georgia. I mean, Georgia Tech's not competition. And then you go on down here to Tennessee is number 16. We're up to 7 million people. And let's see where Alabama is. Well, South Carolina's next at 5.2, then Alabama 5.0. See, Alabama's 24th in the country, yet they're number 1 in the SEC fan base. That's what happens when you win.
I'm sorry, winning. You starting to get the concept now? Oops, winning.
Then Louisiana is at 4.6, Kentucky 4.5, Arkansas 3, etc., Mississippi on down the line. So even though Tennessee's at number 8, I promise you this, if Josh Heupel keeps winning, especially the way he's winning with that offense, we're going to have a huge fan base because it is by far the most fun team to watch in the country. That's why those games that got such huge viewership numbers, like the Alabama game, the Georgia game, the LSU game, and on and on and on, Florida, people want to watch the Vols because that offense is you literally can't look away. You go to the bathroom, come back, and we've scored. So it's really something to watch. Now let's take a look at the richest SEC schools. And they have included Texas and Oklahoma in this, but again, they're not in the SEC till next year. And this shows the amount of money they've taken in, their gross revenues. Vanderbilt's the worst, obviously, at $33 million. That shouldn't surprise you any. Missouri's next at $35 million gross. Kentucky, $37. I would have thought they'd been higher than that with their basketball. And again, this does not include all the money they get from TV, okay? Mississippi State, $40 million. South Carolina, $63 million. Mississippi, $73. Texas A&M's number 10 at $81 million. Arkansas, $84. Hey, Arkansas is doing pretty good at $84 million. Florida, $93 million. And that's pretty good given the fact they've really struggled 6 and 7 the last 2 years, so they're still taking in a lot of money. LSU, $95 million. I would have thought they'd be a little higher than that. Let's see. Tennessee's number 6 at $100 million. Routinely one of the least efficient football programs in the nation as measured by wins and budget. Josh Heupel began trying to turn the barge around. First went 7-6, and the Neyland Stadium was at 84% capacity. But the physical result was almost the most efficient in the SEC, a hefty $61 million profit on frugal expenses of $39 million. That's Danny White. The men's basketball program, Rick Barnes made money, $1.7 million profit. That's pretty good. And then the women's program, it took in $2.4 million. That's good for the ladies. They lost money. They lost $3.5 million. Auburn, how is Auburn ahead of us in gross revenue? That blows my mind. You got to be kidding me. They're still going to watch those folks. That's shocking. Selling out every game. Man, they don't give up. That's the one thing about Auburn, man. They care. Alabama, 127. They're fourth. Then Oklahoma, and I think that includes some of their TV money, so I don't know if they should even be in this list. And then Georgia, number 2. They're really number 1 at $156 million because it's going to show Texas. And Texas and Oklahoma are not in this, so really Tennessee's 4th, Georgia's 1st, Alabama's 2nd, and somehow Auburn's 3rd. That just shocks me. I don't understand how Auburn could be 3rd and they've done nothing but lose. They had to fire their coach. So anyway, that sort of gives you an idea who's taking in the most money, and it has a lot to do with winning. Georgia's number 1 because they win. Alabama's number 2 because they win. And for us to get any higher than what we are technically as 4th, we just got to keep winning. If Heupel gets us a national title or 2, we will be number 1. You can just absolutely count on that because Tennessee, the entire state's behind the Vols. The Titans are here, but I don't know how many people care about them. They could have picked up Hendon Hooker and helped themselves a ton, but they didn't do that. They got Forever in Blue Jeans, Levi's, out of Kentucky, so whatever. Nice decision, Titans. But anyway, Tennessee could be number 1. That's something they could take over, and the fan base too. They've just got to continue down this path, and they've got Heupel long term, so I feel great about that. Now, the Tennessee baseball program, they lost today. They had tied it up. They were down 4-1, tied it up, scored 3 and I think the 4th, and then Georgia wound up winning 9-4, so crap. Had that great run of 7 straight SEC wins. Now we're 500 at 12-12 in the SEC, so after a great run of 7 straight wins, we've lost 2 in a row, so that's unfortunate. I want to talk about my new sponsor, which I introduced you to him a few days ago, and that was Peter Holloway, and he's a big Vol fan and wanted to support the channel, which is really cool. And he's got a beach house that he rents out, and he thought one of the ways that he could help sponsor is to advertise. And I'll show you some of the pictures of this home. It's very reasonably priced to rent, and it's got great access to the beach. You can just walk right to it, and really some cool amenities. Here's the actual home. Here's the interior of the home, and right here is the actual property, and you have access to 3 different pools. As you can see, the ocean's right there. So if you've got kids with you, you know how they love to get in the pool if they're not going to be in the ocean. A big master bedroom. You've got bunk beds for the kids if you're going to bring your family. As you can see, it's a really nice place. Nice back porch to hang out. A nice full kitchen. After a big day at the ocean, you may want to have a low country boil or something along those lines, and this would be a great place to do just that. And I do like how the kitchen ties into the living room, which is always nice. That way nobody's separated. And the resort is actually called Portside Resort. And their name of their home there is the Salty Suite. And if you want to play tennis, you can certainly do that. And again, you can see all the pools, hot tub, all of that. Also, if you want to work out. So if you're looking to take a trip down to Panama City, Florida, the Salty Suite's a great deal, very reasonably priced. And you would be renting from a Vols fan who also is in the military. He and his wife both were in the military. He still currently is, and they're both huge Vols fans. So instead of renting from a big corporation, why not rent from a Vols fan? So check out the Salty Sweet next time you're looking to go down to Florida. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover the Vols and the SEC and all that good stuff. And right over here's my most recent video. Just hit that little button. Boom. That's all you got to do. Doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out. I would appreciate it. Some of you watch my videos and you don't hit that little button. Just do it. And right over here's my most recent video. Be sure to check that one out. And we will see you next time on Sports Talk J. And it looks like it's fixing to rain.